Welcome to the Maine-J Show. It's your boy Maine-J, and this is another episode of Maine-Chat. Thank you all for tuning in today. And today, I have two very special guests that are on the panel with me. None other than my sister and good friend, businesswoman, entrepreneur, Sister KendraDenise. Thank you for coming on to the show today. And I have a good dear friend and brother of mine. He's a preacher, prophet, bishop, apostle, pastor. Okay, all the above. None other than Elder Marcus J. Hill Sr. Thank you for coming on to the show today, sir.
Love you, man. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. So today we will be talking about generational curses, generational gaps, the difference between our parents being the parents now, the generation that we are raising, well, they are raising. Praise Jesus, I'm not there yet. Hallelujah. But we're going to be talking about all of that. So thank you all for tuning in once again to have this discussion. All right. So both of you all are millennials, and you are raising these young knuckleheads today. Praise Jesus. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of things that maybe that y'all were taught that y'all might not be teaching or passing down. So just overall, how has it been so this far raising children in this day and age, in this era, and even in the pandemic? Elder Marcus?
It's a challenge overall, because you've got to know what to do and what not to do. And so I'm in a position where my father really wasn't in the position I'm in, if that makes sense. He was only there for 10 years of my life. And him and my mother, they had their disputes, and, they agreed to, divorce. And so I had a stepfather, and, I have sons that are not my blood, but they're my sons because I've raised them, right? So thank you. I had to step up at a very young age because I come from a poor family, but a big family at that. And so my mother remarried, but he was lazy, very lazy, didn't work, he did side jobs, but it was more so volunteer. You know what I'm saying? Every now and then somebody would have paid him, but it just wasn't enough. So it put her in an awkward situation to have to get more than 2 jobs just to make ends meet. My grandma was there a great part of my life. And so my kids have had the opportunity to have things that I didn't have, to be in a position to experience things that I didn't get to experience. And so the challenge to me was to give them what I didn't get, right? Because a lot of times what parents would do is, for collectively speaking, if they're not a jealous parent, if they're not jealous, they want to see their child do better than them. They want to see their child go further than them, do greater than them. Every so often, you'll have that parent who don't want to see their child succeed. And so my goal was to speak life where maybe there was failure from their actual fathers. And no one's perfect, of course, right? We all don't dot every I, we don't cross every T. And so my job was to take those that didn't have and don't have my last name and speak life. I want you to go further than me. I want you to do better than what I'm doing now at this age. I want you to do greater things than what I'm doing, not just on a spiritual or church level, but even naturally. You know what I'm saying? Because there's more to life than just church. You got to have that balance. I don't mean to go Bible, but it's just in me, so I might as well go here. The scripture says that I wish above all that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. So in other words, there ought to come a time in your life where there is an equal balance between natural and spiritual. If they're not equaled out, that's going to cause some things. But I had to learn, and Jermaine, I'm still learning how to be a father, how to be a parent, right? It comes with challenges. You don't know everything. It don't come with a manual. You know what I'm saying? You don't, and I still don't know everything. And I'm not sitting here like I do know everything because I don't. I've learned and I've watched and, I've read things and I've read different books here and there, but it really doesn't matter unless you've been through it, unless you've actually dealt with it. And so this pandemic really wasn't really, I mean, I might lose a lot of people when I say this, but it really wasn't much of a challenge. The only thing that was different was we're stuck in the house all the time. We only come out when it's time to go to church. I work from home. My job, they shut down the office because that's how bad it was. So it really hasn't been too bad at all. But I'm grateful and thankful to be where I am. I never thought I'd be where I am now. I never thought I'd have kids of my own, honestly speaking. But I love it, bro. And salute to those parents out there who don't have two people in a household. It can be, from what I've seen and from what I know, dealing with family members who are single parents, it can be hard, right? Because when the man is not there, it's hard for the male child because the mom can't teach him how to be a man because the mom's not a man. She can give him tips on what she's dealt with if she had a father who was there all the time. But when it comes to real life based reality, it's impossible. So, yeah, man, that's all I got for now.
All right. Anything that you'd like to add, Kendra?
I think for me, like coming from my background, my mom was a single parent. My parents divorced when I was, they divorced when I was 12, but they were separated before that. And I think being a parent during this time, I had to take things that I learned that was beneficial as well as things that I learned that weren't beneficial and be honest and pull from every experience. And knowing like ever since I was a little girl, I always wanted to be a mom. And so in my head, I was always conscious of, yeah, I might do this different. Or, yeah, I'm going to take this. This is working. Or I have had plenty of strong women in my life that I've seen do things differently and get certain results. And I would just pull from those things. Being a single mom of a 14-year-old son, I knew before he was born, there was some conversations that, for me personally, I had with God. I wasn't a single mom, obviously, when I was pregnant and all that stuff, but there was still conversations that I knew spiritually that benefited me, that I pulled examples from the Bible, growing up in church, you know what I mean? Like, of what type of mother I wanted to be, seeing different mothers when I was younger and seeing what worked for them. Overall, I knew communication, whether it was a boy or girl, was going to be key for me. I, growing up, being born in 1985, the 80s, the 90s, yes, you had parents that was attentive, but you also had, my mom had two daughters. She worked hard. She did what she had to do, took care of us, came home. She helped my grandparents. She was everything I wanted to be as far as showing up in this world. She gave us standards. She gave us goals. She gave us all those things, taking us to church. Like, she did everything that she can. But a lot of those people in her generation, or maybe older, communication wasn't big, as far as like, basically you're gonna do what I tell you to do and that's it. Like, asking questions wasn't really a thing. You got directions and that was it. And that, I'm not knocking how they did it. I just wanted something different. And I knew that there were certain barriers that I've seen my friends have, cousins have, I have, with our parents, that weren't necessarily necessary. but because the free communication wasn't there, to be able to share, it made that awkward, uncomfortable silence. Maybe I shouldn't tell my parents this. And so growing up, you see your friends or your family have that barrier of, I can't tell my mom this, I can't tell my father this, but they still go and do whatever it was. I knew for myself, I didn't want to have that story. I wanted to be able to have open communication with my son or my child. I didn't know I was having a son at the time. And make it to where it's okay for us to have difficult conversations, because I knew growing up in church, growing up period, there were certain questions you couldn't ask. There were certain conversations you couldn't have, and you were still curious. It didn't take away your curiosity. It just made you go ask other people, and I didn't want that for mine. So that communication was a big thing. And in result of that, we have awesome communication now. He doesn't mind asking me questions that most people wouldn't ask their parents. And I think he's starting to realize it growing up, because he'll say like, yeah, I asked my mother, blah, blah, blah. And his friends will be like, you asked your mother that? But I'm a strong believer in, I'd rather be the one to tell you age appropriately versus somebody else telling you and then they give you wrong information. And I agree with Pastor Hill when he says about fathers raising their sons. Jermaine, you know, I sent my son to live with his dad 2 years ago, and it wasn't because I didn't know what I was doing or I was a bad mom. I just knew he's becoming a teenager, and there's certain conversations only a father can have. There's certain lessons only a father can teach him. There's certain things that and certain bonds that only happen between father and sons. I wasn't oblivious to that. My ego didn't make me feel some type of way about sending him. And his father wasn't like, I know when it was happening, I got a lot of mixed feedback. Like people were like concerned, like, why are you doing this? Like, why won't you keep him and all this other stuff? And I had to explain to people like his father is very present. I'm not sending him to a stranger. It's his father. I didn't have a baby with a random person. I know him. Like, so with him going, the only concerns for real and real conversations that mattered to me was, of course, first my conversation with God and my conversation with my mom and dad, and then my conversation with Bishop Bragg. After those people was like, yes, you're doing what you're supposed to do. This makes sense. Don't pay attention to other things, because people will try to put their experiences on you and make you feel some type of way about what you're doing, because they may or may not have that privilege to do that, or they don't trust whoever they was with. Like, block that out. And I had conversations with Bishop Bragg to be like, I don't understand why people are so concerned about what I'm doing, but like he said, he's a boy. You're his mom, yes. You can teach him stuff, yes, but there's certain things that only fathers can do with their sons. It doesn't take away from you. It doesn't deplete you. It doesn't make you any smaller, any less present, but that's okay for you to do. So with him being gone for the 2 years, it will be almost 3 years. It's almost like he's not going, because we see each other every 2 months, 2 to 3 months. I'm flying there, he's flying there. You see him in the summer and all that stuff. But again, it's like a team thing. It can be way more difficult than what it needs to be, but you don't once you have your mindset correct on what you're doing and you keep God first in all your decisions, it takes away the unsurety of being a parent. And like Pastor Hill said, like, I don't know everything. I ain't claiming to know everything. I'm learning every day. And but you have to be conscious and own your decisions as a parent.
Can I add something, Jermaine?
Go ahead.
Sometimes
Go ahead,
kids
sir.
can teach. Sometimes us as parents, kids can teach us stuff, and I say that very humbly because there were times when I'm like, well, you can't teach me. The older generation, nothing against them at all. Love the older generation. I'm a grandma's boy to the heart. Me and my grandmother had a greater relationship than me and my mom. Me and my mom really didn't have a relationship, and I lived in home with my mom. My mom decided to, she house parties, working. It was that house parties, working, church. So, but I said all that to say that kids can teach you stuff if you really pay attention and really listen. My kids teach me stuff every day. Oh, I didn't know that. Wow. Oh, that's something new. You know what I'm saying? It's the worst thing a parent can do is not think a child cannot teach them nothing. Well, you ain't, I've been living longer than you. I know that. In some cases, we do have experience. In some cases, you know what I'm saying? But if it's something that's new on the scene, then that's something totally different. But, like I said, they teach me stuff all the time. Do I show it all the time? May not show it all the time, but in my head, I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. But just to hear the intelligent, they're very intelligent, they're very brilliant. They're able to figure things out that we weren't able to figure out, and they're able to figure out in ways that we wouldn't even thought of. So it's ironic how the generations are forever evolving, and there's something different that our generation didn't have that this generation does have. And it's strange because we're in between generations. You know what I'm saying? We're getting older, but they're still younger. But at the same time, the older people say we're a part of this generation also. So I just want to throw that in there.
Perfect. I'm glad that y'all already beat me to all my questions, but once again with the people older than us, right? That are our parents and grandparents. They say a lot of things, and some of y'all touched on it, but we're going to elaborate a little bit more. They say things like, I think sometimes they just like to talk just to say stuff. Oh, y'all let y'all kids just do anything, or the problem today is that the parents are trying to be friends with kids, and oh, these kids are just disrespectful. And my question to y'all, number one, everyone's family situation is different. There are some great parents out there, but there were some parents who were very verbally abusive, physically abusive, emotionally abusive, and all other stuff. And if you were the type of person who grew up with an abusive parent, you know what I'm saying? You couldn't communicate, you couldn't talk. Everything was shut up, be quiet, sit down. I'm not even gonna say no cuss words, but some kids get that every day. You cuss your kid out like they're grown. Like, geez, do you ever just talk to your kid normally? So is it that the parents are trying to be friends with their children? Or they just decided they're not going to communicate with their children the way how they were communicated with? Are kids disrespectful these days? Or are they just not taking what we took? Because, you hear the older generation say, we just took it. And that's the problem. Y'all just took it, and then y'all gave it down to us, and we had to take it. And if you're not careful, you're going to give it to your kids, and then, you know what I'm saying? It's a whole bunch of different things. And I think there's a difference, and even at my age, I'm learning it. There's a difference between respecting you because you're older, you're an elder, you're a pastor, whatever the case may be. And I had to just finally learn this, Kendra and Marcus. Yes, you're an elder. Yes, you're older than me, and I will respect you. However, you are not going to talk to me like that.
Absolutely.
Okay? And I think, once again, these kids aren't taking that. You may be my mother, you may be my father, but they're talking back now. And I think there's a difference between do the dishes and I'm talking back, and you having a verbally abusive parent that's saying you're dumb, you're stupid, you're just like your father. And they saying you're stupid. You're not gonna call me dumb. I'm not receiving that. And I think a lot of people our age, we received a lot of things that we shouldn't have received. And we let a lot of things get in our spirit that we
Right.
shouldn't have got. Maybe I am stupid. Maybe I am dumb. Maybe I am going to end up like my father. And then woe be unto the parents if you do end up like your dad, or you do have a whole bunch of kids and don't take care of them. See, I told you. Yeah, you did tell me, and that's the problem. You spoke that over my life. And these kids nowadays, they have a lot more boldness to say, "You're not going to talk to me like that." And I think that there's a difference between saying that these kids are just disrespectful, and then them just not receiving certain things. Them actually speaking up for themselves, something that we couldn't do. A lot of people our age, they still didn't know how to communicate because we weren't. Everything was shut up, be quiet, don't say nothing. What goes on in my house stays in my house. And if you don't like it, you can get out. So then you grow older, you don't know how to communicate, you don't know how to, you know, negotiate, you don't know how to speak up and say, maybe just something as simple as, Mama, I think I deserve a raise. I mean, not a raise, and a bigger allowance. You don't deserve nothing, da 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 da. So then when you get older, you get on a job, you know you deserve the raise, but you kind of have that form of communication. Maybe I shouldn't ask if I should get a raise, or I don't know how to communicate. A lot of those things go into adulthood, and I'm actually, kind of glad. I don't fault a kid if they speak that to an extent. If y'all hear what I'm saying, I don't fault a kid if they say, "You're not speaking that over me. You're not calling me dumb. I'm going to be respected just how you want to be respected." And I just wanted to know what y'all as parents think on that.
I think personally it's a mixed bag, if you get what I'm saying. Like, I think it's depends on the situation or the family or the groups of kids, because like you said, I have seen all those examples that you gave. And I think in some instances it's a lack of foundation between the parent and the kid. And some instances, and when I say lack of foundation, I mean you're not communicating with them, or you're not talking to them, you're not treating them, whatever. But then when you step outside, you want to act like a real parent, right? You didn't care in the house. You let me do whatever I want. You let me smoke, drink, whatever, and we smoking together. But then when you get around your friends that actually discipline their kids, then you want to act like a real mother. And I don't fault those kids, because you kind of set yourself up, because now they're looking at you like, what? Are you really going to pretend like you don't do this with me? Like, this ain't okay? Like, you don't let my boyfriend spend the night? Like, you don't go buy stuff for me? You know what I mean? Those kids be confused. They legit be confused. Like, I don't even know this person. Are you only acting like that because Auntie so-and-so's around? Or your friend that has accountability as a parent is around? Then those kids is looking at you like you're a fraud, right? Like, that's not real. Ma, please act like you regularly do in the house when nobody's looking. And then you have those kids that and I know you've seen it, like when we was younger, there was always certain parents that be like, go do that dance. And you do it for all your mom's friends, and they be like, that's so cute, blah, blah, blah. And then there's still that going on now, but it's different extremes to where that you put your insecurities on your child. Like, as far as labels, I'm into labels, so now I'm making my kid into labels. And then when you finally like are kind of over that stage, you really can't be over it, because now that's the only thing the kids used to. So now they're mad at you, they're having whole tantrums because you can't buy them these certain labels anymore. And then you have other parents to where they did take the time to build that foundation with their kids, to where they'd be like, okay, these are the standards in this house. This is how we act. This is how, we represent each other. I know one thing I would say to my son, for him to understand, when he was little, I would say to him, you know, you represent mommy when you leave. I represent you when you leave. If you want to act up in public, I can act up in public. I don't think you want that. So we're here. Like, we're always representing each other. You put your best foot forward, I put my best foot forward. Not to say like to scare him or anything, to be like, oh, I'm about to act a fool and all this other stuff. No. I meant to where you're in school, and just because your friends decide to do some old crazy, let's leave class early and let's fight this person and let's do this and let's do that, know that like somebody cares about who you are even when you're not around. Somebody cares about who you are even when you don't see them. You care about how I represent myself. You would never want to hear on the news, Mommy, Kendra Maston is on Channel 5 News because she just XYZ, and you're all embarrassed, like, oh my God, my mother just whatever. You get that? Like, so not to say those was extreme examples, but for kids, you have to bring certain things down to their level. Like, there's just you don't have to condition yourself to where and another thing I would say to him is, you are your own person. Own who you are. You look different. You may act different. You may like science. You may like this. You may like that. Own that. Don't be ashamed of who you are. Your friends don't have to like what you like, but know that you don't have to adjust to them in that peer pressure to say, oh, well, because now they're smoking and their mom lets them smoke, it's okay for me to smoke. No, because we have different standards in our house. We carry ourselves differently. And in owning who you are affects how you show up in the world. And I just think it's like a mixed bag. I don't think every kid is like wilding out and super disrespectful. Yes, there are some that are super disrespectful, but there's always a root cause. Nobody just come out the gate super disrespectful, cussing out everybody, flipping tables, fight in the world, wanting to fight their sister, brother, mother, auntie. They don't have no respect. There's a reason. Most of those kids, honestly, most of the ones that I've ran into, that I'm connected to, just want to know that you care enough to pay attention. You care enough to hear what they got to say. You care enough to listen. And you care enough to stop everything you're doing, put your phone down, and hear them speak. Most of those kids that I know that act like that, when they interact with me, they show up in the world totally different, because they know that when they are with me, there's a certain standard. She's not going to let me wild out and go crazy, not because she's super mean, but I care enough about you to tell you what you look like, and you care enough about me to show up in the world different. And they've said it on multiple occasions. I love you because you listen to me. They could be talking about the most random thing that I am not even concerned about, I can care less about. But because I sit there and I'm paying attention to them, that's where the respect goes. And they know that if push come to shove, if anybody will listen to me, she's going to listen to me. So I think it's how you treat them and how you show up. And they usually give off what you give off. They just do it times 10.
Anything, Elder?
Man, so much great stuff was said. Just to piggyback on both, as she said, it's a mixed bag. It's an all you can eat buffet. I don't think it just comes from just one area or one aspect of life, but I believe it's a little bit of everything. Some things are hereditary. Some things are generational curses, but I also believe that there's some things are also generational choices as well. The difference between a curse and a choice is you choose to do it, even though you have the power to do the opposite of what has been lingering, through the family. And I can speak personally, far as me, I was the type of person where I talked. There was two things I got in trouble for. It was always joking around and always saying something. And it was to the point where if the person was right there, I said it. It just had to be said. We weren't going to be no text you, call you. She's right there. Hush. No, I don't care. He right there. So just say it. That my mouth always got me in trouble. And so my mother's mouth got her in trouble, and she was able to back it up. My mouth got me in trouble, and it was the thing. So I choose to do what she did. I could have been quiet and been the opposite, but that's just basically what happened. I'm gonna let you know. I'm not gonna be quiet. I'm gonna speak my piece, say what I got to say. However it comes out is how it comes out. Whatever it said is whatever it said. That's just the type of attitude that I had from a little boy all the way up. But I think somewhere along the line there had to be some type of line drawn, some type of limitations, right? Because generation now, as you stated, don't care. Questions will be asked because we want to know. We want to know, and in some cases, we deserve an explanation. Now, in some cases, we don't. You just do what you're told, and that's it. In some cases, we deserve an explanation. We deserve what we want to know. We're curious. I was mischievous. I was curious. I wanted to know why, where, how, to try to solve exactly what was going on, right? So the older generation, because I'm a grandma's boy, so you really didn't have much say with them. You just did it, and that was it. Well, why? Because I said so. They weren't giving you no explanation. You weren't getting no full drawn out answer to why. You didn't have that luxury. It wasn't needed to them. You didn't qualify. You don't need an explanation. You just do what you're told, and that's it. And you do it how you're told, and that's it. That's basically what it was. It wasn't no talk back. But I think sometimes we are the problem to that. And I can speak for myself. If you hold a conversation longer than what it should be, that opens up a door and a window for further conversations down the line. Well, he let this happen the first one or two conversations. So what about now? What has changed? If you're consistent in how you start, is how they're gonna look for you to finish. So if you start off holding the conversation longer than what it should be, then that's how they'll expect you to finish. And one of you said something about, that if something is said and they ask you why, the response will be 10 times greater. Oh, yes, it is. It's going to be 10 times because they feel it's owed to them. They feel an explanation is owed to them. Me growing up, many things weren't really explained to me, but it didn't stop me from talking because I was going to talk regardless, right? I was more submissive to my grandmother than my mom because, again, my grandmother is the reason why who I am today and where I am, because she prayed and fasted, we read, we did all those great things. My mom, on the other hand, was more so one who talked and then fought. It was just talk and fight. So it, with my kids, I know I make a lot of mistakes, made a lot of mistakes, will continue to make mistakes because I'm not perfect at all, right? So I try to find a middle ground because you can't always be serious with them, but you can't always joke with them either. There has to be some type of balance. It's life, right? It has to be some type of balance. So I try to find some type of balance. Am I good at it all the time? No. Am I horrible at it all the time? No. Sometimes I'm off by a lot. Sometimes I'm just right where I need to be. But the truth of the matter is that there are a lot of parents who expect their children to be one way all the time. And I don't think it'll work, especially in the time and age in this critical hour that we live in now. They're forever evolving. They're forever triggered to different things that's going on around them, right? They're very tech savvy nowadays. You know, we growing up, me personally, we didn't have a phone. I didn't have a phone until I had my first job, which was outside of legit job outside of high school. Um, we didn't have iPads and all these different devices they have now. We had outside, we had dirt, right? We had mud castles and rocks and stones and climbing up trees and fences and the park, and basketball courts. That's what we had. So things have changed. Um, things have changed, and so where the older generation is, there's a lot of pros and cons with that, you know, right? So I want to make sure, I know this is going to go live, so I want to make sure I grace my words accurately, because I have nothing against the saints of old at all. I have nothing against the church of old at all. I just sense and feel, just in some cases, there are some things that work for them, and as much as we try, may not work for us. It just may not. I understand he's the same God today, yesterday, and forevermore. That has nothing to do with how they operate, though. People take that scripture out of context, and it bothers me, because that scripture don't go with that, because the world is forever changing. How is it that we serve a creator who created us, that he doesn't change, but he created us to operate in time that is always evolving and changing? And so I see it. There's some things that can work, right? Tarrying of the Holy Ghost. That's gonna work perfectly fine. That's how I got him. And that's how I've witnessed other people get him that same way. But there are other aspects of things that are not going to work for us, no matter how hard we try, because I believe it was meant for that time in that era. There are some things that they're trying to push to work with this generation that work for the saints of old, that's already been that's been expired. It's been out of date years ago. I know I'm gonna get in trouble, but it's cool, Jermaine.
Go ahead.
You know what I'm saying? So when, and like I said, I'm new at parenting. My blood oldest is 7, but my oldest is 19. So I've had some type of experience before. I see them as a test before I have my own. So there are some things that are going to work, and then you also got to be careful how you handle the children, because each child you got to handle differently. You can't use the same process for 4 kids and expect the same outcome, because it's not going to be the same. My wife bought me a book and was teaching me on love languages. You've got to know their love language, because their love language ain't all the same. One might need gifts bought for him. One might need that words of affection. One might need a hug, right? One might need you to just be there in their presence, and just to be there. And like she said, you know, you better than me, because they can talk to me about something I don't care for, and I don't care why you asking me. I'm just being transparent. Why you asking me? Go and ask somebody that know. I don't know, but that's gonna help me now learn how to sit there and act interested. I may not want to sit there and listen to all, but you know, you talk too much. You talk. Go on, sit down somewhere. But it shows that, because I've been my childhood. I experienced rejection by my mom. I experienced abuse, physical and verbal, right? And it played with my mental state of mind. Ain't nothing wrong with me. I don't have mental illness or anything like that, but you can only take but so much before you burst, right? And so my goal was to have a relationship with my kids that I didn't have with my mother. I was always in trouble for something. Watch this. I don't even have to be home, and I would get in trouble when I get home. I don't even have to have nothing to do with the situation, but I still get in trouble, because somewhere along the line, you're the oldest. And so you should know better. Watch this. That shouldn't apply if you're not in the presence of it going on. I'm not guilty by association, because I wasn't there at the time or the hour or the day that it happened. But for somewhere along the line, for some reason, I would get in trouble as soon as I get home. if I didn't know nothing about the situation, right? And so I didn't want to be that type of parent. Um, Me and my stepfather didn't have a good relationship either. Lord rest his soul. It was always a clashing. The only time we, not even musically, like we had a little quartet group and we traveled here, Connecticut, New York, Delaware, what have you, up and down the East Coast, and what have you. And even when it came to that, our relationship wasn't good. In home, nothing. It was always some type of clash, right? Because I always had something to say. And I had something to say because how dare you sit here and see her working 2 to 3, 4 jobs and you not get up and go work a job? How can you sit here and say you a man and you ain't doing nothing at all? I see you playing your PlayStation and you're sitting there and you're eating up everything, but you're not helping. And I didn't want to be that. I did not want to be that way. And that's why when I tell people and I explain to them, he was there, but he wasn't there. So he was there physically, but he wasn't there. So his presence wasn't even known. It wasn't felt, but it was, but in the wrong way. Like, oh man, this guy here, man, he ain't, go get a job. Like me and my brother, we just felt the same way because it was sad because, but then some part of that I do blame my mom because she knew about part of it before she got with the man, right? So she chose, and I said no, I'm not gonna do that. My wife's a stay-at-home mom, and so that's what we, decided. She was working at the time, but somewhere before I met her second oldest, he needed 25 of supervision when he was born, umbilical cord wrapped around his neck and brain sitting on the back of his neck and stuff. So he had a lot going on with him and stuff. And so we decided, okay, I'm gonna do what I have to do. Did I see myself with a woman with kids at all? 3? No. But somewhere along the line, I believe God graced me for what he graced me for. It's not easy. It hasn't been easy at all because when you have the only income, it's hard. It really is because you got the balance after tithes and offering. You got the balance, the rent. Thank God for assistance. Not putting business out there, but thank God for assistance or what have you. But even when it freezes at the time that it did, and even when it stops, you still got the. They don't know what we eating today. They don't know. They don't know that stuff. You got to be 4 steps ahead. So when they come behind, oh nope, already got it planned out. Or already got, you know what I'm saying? So it's a challenge because the older generation was able to do it, but they didn't have much. They had little to much. And then you got to understand that the dollar value in one way, the dollar value in one way is decreasing, but in one way it's increasing at the same time. So the cost of living is going up, but the dollar value is dropping. And so in that time and day, $15,000 a year, I'm just saying, for instance, was a lot of money to them. That's a lot of money. $100 a day. Oh man, yeah. Nowadays, $100 a day. But by the time taxes come out, you got little to nothing. You got to choose whether you gonna get whether you gonna pay rent or pay the light. You know what I'm saying? And so, the comparison, in a sense, I do see some things that can work, but in some cases, there's some things that just may not work. And you don't even have to try everything for yourself. You could just tell, like, just by looking and you'll have that conscious, you'll have that discernment, that conscious will let you know, it's not gonna work. And like I said, I have no disrespect against the church. I have no disrespect against, generations like my mom and them going backwards. And I sat there and watched her struggle. I mean, and this is before she even got 4 jobs. I mean, I know how it feels to, and let me say this: there's 1 sibling dead, and so there's 6 of us alive. So I'm the oldest of 6 alive. And there was 1 before me. She died at 4 months, and then my dad, he has 4 kids, 3 of us boys and 1 girl by another lady or what have you. So big family, poor family. I know how it feels to have the light off. You got to go from room to room with a candle, trying to see. I know how it feels to have the water off, where you got to boil the water just to have a hot bath. I know how it feels to not have much food. I mean, mayonnaise sandwich, served. I mean, I could go on and on for rice every day. I got tired of rice. I mean, every day rice with something else. Rice with peas, rice with chicken, rice with corn, rice with bread. I'm tired of rice. When I got older, I said, I do not want no rice. If it ain't colored, I don't want no white rice at all. I mean, but that goes to show you that she was able to show us how to survive if we ever been in that situation. And there was a time where I was homeless for a short stint, maybe I want to say maybe a month, maybe about a month, maybe. And so even in that, I did not rely on anybody I lived with to fend for me. No, I go get my own food. No, because that comes with stipulations as well and limitations, because they're gonna let you use but so much of their food. They're gonna let you stay but for so long. The only person that really didn't have a time frame or a limit on me was my godfather. And I stayed with him only 2 weeks because, and it was out of his control. But other than that, I've learned, I'm learning still what to do and what not to do. And like we've stated, it's all in the bag. It comes from different things. One parent can come from one background, another parent can come from another background. And when you have the kids, they have a mixture of both. My wife is a Navy girl. Father was in the Navy, traveled here and there and everywhere. I'm a poor boy from the hood. So you get what I'm saying? So you get one and one, you get middle, almost upper class, and you get poor, poverty together. And so and I've come a long way. I'm not where I was before, but I'm not where I really want to be. And I know I got a long ways to go, but it can be challenging and discouraging at the same time when the sense of how they present their information to you. Because on one hand they'll tell you never been through nothing, but then you're beating me down telling me I don't know. Of course I don't know. I never been through it. Oh, well, I've been through that. Oh, you didn't go through. But the thing is, you could have gone through the same situation I've gone through, but our process is different. How we maneuver may not be. You may have went from A, B, C, D to E and got to where you have gone, and I only go from A to E. Same God, different era, different generation, maybe different grace. You know what I'm saying? You never know what plays in it. And just how they told us, don't beat down on the old because you need them. You need the young as well, because when the fathers and mothers are leaving, who is there to step up and take over? So you can't beat us down and then at the same time expect us to take over when you're gone. You know what I'm saying? And so all I want for my kids is to go further than me. You know what I'm saying? If it works for you, it works. Because there are a lot of things that my mom did that I don't do. A lot of things that my stepfather did to me as his stepson that I don't do. There's a lot of things that I didn't get from him that I give to my sons. A lot of, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that I didn't get done for me, with me, and to me that I do for them. And my goal is to be better than he was. To me, I want to do for them. And so that's how I look at it. I mean, people have this, people gonna say stuff. People have their little 9 cents or whatever. I don't care at all. You think you all that? No, you're thinking it. I know, because, I believe God didn't grace me and bring me this far not to help me do what I need to do. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, it don't come with a manual. I don't care if you step, adopted, grandma, grandfather, aunt, uncle, God, sister, brother. It doesn't matter. It doesn't come with a manual. Where no one is perfect at all. We all make mistakes. You're going to forever learn. We're all going to forever learn how to do this, because this is life, right? This is life. And so, man, y'all brought up, like I said, y'all brought up some great value. Jermaine, you too, man. You didn't even have to ask the question, honestly, because you asked it and then you answered it.
Yes.
And then
I just wanted to add one thing that you said. The older generation would say, like, you never been through nothing. That for me was one of my biggest pet peeves as a kid, because I would always feel like, how dare you dismiss me and say I never been through nothing, and yet never asked me what I've been through. Like, how do you just assume because I am this years old that I've never been through or experienced anything because of how I present myself at church. You know what I mean? Like, because like you said, nothing against them. You learn a lot. You can apply a lot. You can take away a lot. But the dismissiveness of, well, you're only 10 years old. How could you have been through anything?
Right.
And it's like, well, I'm 10 years old, yes. But I also live in a house with whoever. I have family members. I have things that you may see or you may witness day in, day out. That because I don't show up in church that way, like I don't show up broken. Because one thing I did learn is how to show up. Y'all
Right.
taught us how to show up. I
Right.
don't care what's happening at home. I don't care what's happening at Big Mama's house. I don't care what's happening at Nana's house, your house, Auntie's house. When you get to church on Sunday, you better put on them little ruffly socks, poofy dress, your hair's done, and you better act accordingly. Go up there, sing your little cute song on the kids' choir, come back and have a seat. But you're not, you didn't show what was going on. Or as you grow up and you become a teenager and worship may be going forth, or you're singing, or you're dancing, like liturgical dance or whatever, and you start to cry, they'd be like, oh, something's really must be wrong with them. Are you okay, baby? Not because you really want to know, but because that was what was right to say in the moment, right? Because if they would have taken the chance to be like, oh, you really want to know what's wrong? This is happening, that's happening, this is happening, then you're looking like, oh my God. Oh, no. Don't tell nobody that. That's so-and-so's business. That's so-and-so's business. Yeah, but it affects me.
Right.
So do you want to know I'm okay? Or do you want me to continue to hide it, push it under the rug like y'all are doing? I think that's where generationally things was different. Like you said, people wouldn't be able to stop you from talking. I used to get in trouble all the time, like that girl's mouth. Oh, but it wasn't that. It was just like, look, like y'all act like we don't see. Like y'all may be trained to not say anything, but we wasn't. Like, prime example, my mom always encouraged me and my sister to ask questions. Ask until you get the answer and you know it for yourself.
That was my grandma.
And you get it and you make sure you got it. Like, make sure you have it. Nobody can take that knowledge away from you.
Right.
Okay, got it. Well, that pertains to everything, not just school. I'm going to use that logic in everything that I do. I need to know why I didn't. And what I'm asking you isn't wrong. My mama told me to ask why. So I'm asking why. Why I'm not just believing this to believe this or whatever. And that used to bother me because growing up in late 80s, early 90s, there was still plenty of drugs everywhere. There was plenty of, going, this cousin's in jail, this uncle's in jail, this one's here. Okay, Sunday after church, we're going to visit this jail and blah, blah, blah. And that was normal. That wasn't like, oh my God, I'm scared to go into this place.
Right.
It was normal. So I personally did not know that wasn't normal until I started going to Metco with the other kids. And they're like, you do what? Where? You go where? On Sunday? Like, yeah, what you mean? Like,
we went on
regular.
Saturdays though.
Yes.
We went on Saturdays between that and the nursing home.
Exactly. So having that experience and be like, okay, that's not normal, I guess. Okay, fine. But in those instances, it was normalized. So it wasn't traumatic. The only traumatic thing I still remember to this day is the way the door slam behind you, that metal going boom behind you, like you're permanently stuck there. That's permanently stuck here. But for me, I didn't want him to know what that sound like. And for him and his friends or any other young people that I come in contact with, whether it's at church or whatever, I never wanted to dismiss them by their age, because you never know what that child has experienced before that time.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that you try to lessen it or downplay it and say, like, you don't know what it's like to hurt, or you ain't experienced nothing, that burned. And I knew, like, if that burned for me, I never wanted to be the one to burn somebody else. You get what I'm saying? Right. Like, to take away from their situation, because you could have saved so many in our generation from either being hurt, molested, raped, taken advantage of, drugs, drinking, being exposed to stuff way beyond you should have even known what it was.
Absolutely.
Because you dismissed and
Absolutely.
said, never, no, you don't know, that didn't happen. Those things aren't happening. Or you're not listening. And to know that you had to sit in those emotions, and I think that was a thing for our generation, whether it was you personally, or you had a friend, or you knew this was happening to so-and-so, but to sit there and have to look in these people's face and like let it burn and fester inside, like, can you just ask me the honest ask me so I can say it. Ask me. And then knowing that you're never going to ask me, because A, you probably don't want to know the answer to the question. And B, if you did ask me now, you're going to have to deal with the outfall, the pour out of what is going to happen. Now you have to take responsibility for what I just told you. And I never wanted, that is one generational thing of many that I didn't want to be a part of or to pass forward, because that's detrimental. That's there. It's always said and always known that the enemy attacks you when you're young. There's a reason, right? But if you allow the attack to happen, if you just act like I don't see it, and you allow it to happen, when they turn 15, 16, 17, and you're like, oh my God, what's wrong with them? Oh my God, why are they acting like that? Well, some of it you could have probably helped or prevented or talked them through or removed them from certain situations. But because you thought maybe they came from a prestigious family in the church, or their parents is elder pastor so-and-so, or they're very active in 85,000 things at church. So you didn't want to disturb that. Like, you didn't want to mess that up, because that's where you benefit. I know I'm probably gonna get in trouble, but that's where you benefited. So you didn't see the hurt. And growing up, church teach you how to put the mask on. I mean, I feel like before I was in my 20s, I was a professional mask wearer. Like,
and I'm going to interject real quick, because that's y'all always. I don't even have to ask no questions. Y'all answered all.
I want to talk again right after her, because she she pinpointed a lot of things. So go ahead, Jermaine.
Hold on, wait a minute. What you doing? What you stop? It was just getting good. I know, right? Well, tune in tomorrow for part 2, because it gets even better. See you tomorrow. Bruce.